Stretching across Kenya, Ethiopia, and South Sudan, the LAPSSET Corridor is a $25 billion mega-project poised to transform East Africa's economy. With a 1,720-kilometer railway capable of moving goods at 120 kilometers per hour and an 18-meter deep port designed to handle ships carrying 100,000 tons, its scale rivals some of the world's largest trade routes. To put it in perspective, the LAPSSET Corridor's potential is likened to creating a new Silk Road, but for Africa. Unlike ports in Djibouti and Somaliland, Lamu Port is being built from scratch with cutting-edge infrastructure, including 23 planned berths and direct oil pipelines connecting East Africa to global markets. It's not just about trade, it's about building resort cities, new airports, and roads that open up regions long considered too remote for development. But will the corridor deliver on its promise? How does it plan to outpace rival ports in Djibouti and Somaliland? And why is this massive undertaking taking so long to complete? Let's uncover the answers. The port of Mombasa has been the heartbeat of trade in East Africa for decades. It's huge, handling over 1.4 million containers a year. But lately, it's been struggling. Have you ever waited in a long line, watching time tick away, feeling the frustration grow? That's what happens here, but on a massive scale. Ships line up for days, goods get stuck, and costs go up for everyone. Businesses lose money. Customers like you feel it when prices rise because it takes too long to move products from the port to the markets. Why is this happening? Well, Mombasa is just overwhelmed. Imagine a highway packed with cars, bumper to bumper, all day and night. That's the situation at the port. Containers, which are supposed to stay only 3 or 4 days, end up stuck for nearly 6 days. Multiply that by thousands of containers, and you see how the delays pile up. Then there's the paperwork. Everything moves at a snail's pace because they're still relying on old systems, paper forms, and manual checks. It takes over 12 days just to process cargo. Compare that to other modern ports where it takes half that time, and you see why people are frustrated. And let's not forget the infrastructure. Sure, they've built new terminals and added some upgrades, but the port still can't handle the bigger ships that dominate global trade now. These mega ships carry more goods, which should be great, but they need deep berths and advanced equipment. Without those, the port loses out to others that can handle the load. Add in environmental concerns, pollution from ships, and waste mismanagement, and you see how complicated the problem is. So, what's the solution? How do you fix a system that feels so broken? The answer lies in a bold new vision. A project so big it could change not just Kenya, but the entire region. It's called the LAPSSET Corridor. And it's no small idea. Imagine this, a completely new transport route connecting Kenya, Ethiopia, and South Sudan. A second corridor designed to ease the pressure on Mombasa and open up new opportunities for trade and development. The idea isn't new. In fact, it was first proposed in 1975. Back then, it was just a dream, too big to imagine actually building. But times have changed, and Kenya revived the project as part of its Vision 2030 plan, a roadmap to transform the country into a middle-income nation. The LAPSSET Corridor is a huge piece of that puzzle, and for good reason. What makes this corridor so special? Picture a massive highway stretching from the Lamu Port on Kenya's coast, passing through Isiolo in the north and reaching Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, and South Sudan's capital, Juba. Along the way, there are plans for airports, railway lines, and even an oil pipeline. It's not just a transport corridor, it's an economic lifeline. Let's start with Lamu Port, the centerpiece of the project. Unlike Mombasa, Lamu is being built from scratch with the latest technology. It's designed to handle 23 berths, and it's deep enough to accommodate the largest ships. That's a game changer. Ships that couldn't dock in Mombasa will now have a new option. And because it's new, they can use advanced systems to speed up operations, cut down on paperwork, and reduce delays. No more 12-day waits for documents to clear. No more ships sitting idle for days. But the corridor doesn't stop at Lamu. It's about connecting people and places that have been left out for too long. Northern Kenya, for example, has always been underdeveloped. It's hard to grow an economy when you don't have roads, railways, or reliable transport. The LAPSSET Corridor changes that. It opens up access to new markets and opportunities for people living in places like Isiolo and Turkana. And it connects Kenya to its neighbors in a way that's never been done before. What about the cost? It's massive. The project is estimated to cost around $25 billion. But here's the thing, it's not just a government project. Private investors are stepping in, drawn by the potential for long-term returns. Think about it, a new port, new cities, and new businesses springing up along the corridor. The return on investment could be huge, not just for the investors, but for the countries involved. And the benefits go beyond trade. The corridor includes plans for an oil pipeline from South Sudan, an oil refinery in Isiolo, and even resort cities to boost tourism. There's also a major dam project to provide water and electricity to the region. It's like planting seeds for an entirely new economy, one that's sustainable and self-reliant. So why is this happening now? Because the stakes are high. Mombasa can't carry the load alone anymore. If Kenya wants to stay competitive, it needs this second corridor. And if the region wants to grow, it needs better connections. The LAPSSET Corridor isn't just a Kenyan project. It's a regional project, a vision for a stronger, more integrated East Africa. But here's the big question. Is it all just a dream? Or is it really happening? Let's break it down together. The LAPSSET Corridor isn't just an idea anymore. Pieces of it are taking shape, slowly but surely, though not without challenges. If you're wondering where the $25 billion is going, let's walk through it step by step. First, there's Lamu Port. This is like the starting point of the whole corridor. The plan? Build 23 berths to handle the world's biggest ships. Right now, 3 berths are almost done. They're deepwater berths, meaning they can handle ships carrying up to 100,000 tons of cargo. That's huge. These first 3 berths alone cost $480 million, and the rest of the port is expected to total $3.5 billion. Imagine a port sprawling across 400 hectares. That's what they're aiming for. It's a massive investment, but one that could completely change how goods move in and out of the region. Next, let's talk about the railway. The plan here is a 1,720-kilometer line connecting Lamu to South Sudan and Ethiopia. It's designed for speed. Passenger trains at 160 kilometers per hour and freight trains at 120 kilometers per hour. The total cost, a staggering $7.1 billion. To put that into perspective, just the section linking Lamu to Isiolo will cost $3.5 billion. The numbers sound big, but think about the time and money it could save by moving goods faster and more efficiently. Then there are the roads. These aren't just regular roads, they're vital connections for the whole corridor. For example, the Isiolo-Moyale Road, which stretches 505 kilometers, is finished. This road alone cost $460 million. It connects northern Kenya to Ethiopia, opening up trade routes that were almost impossible to use before. Other roads, like the ones linking Lamu to Garissa and Isiolo to Moyale, are under construction or in the planning stages. When complete, these roads will be like the veins of the corridor, carrying goods and people smoothly across the region. What about airports? Well, they're upgrading and building them too. Isiolo Airport now has a completed runway and is getting a terminal. Over in Lamu, the runway at Manda Airport has been extended to 2.3 kilometers to handle larger planes. The goal is to make sure the corridor isn't just about ground transport. Air connectivity will play a big role in making sure even remote areas can thrive. And here's where it gets even more exciting. The oil pipeline. This isn't just about transporting goods, it's about energy. The pipeline will link Kenya's oil fields in Turkana with Lamu Airport. The cost? $4 billion. It's expected to carry crude oil for export and local refining. With this, Kenya could become a key player in the region's oil trade, and that's a big deal for the economy. But wait, there's more. The project also includes resort cities in Lamu, Isiolo, and Lokichogio. Think luxury hotels, conference centers, and even wildlife parks. The Isiolo city alone is estimated to cost $1.2 billion. These aren't just for tourists. They're designed to create jobs and attract investors. Imagine bustling cities rising in areas that were once quiet and underdeveloped. So, is it all smooth sailing? Not quite. The project faces real challenges. For one, there's the money. With a price tag this big, funding has been a constant hurdle. While the Kenyan government has invested billions, it's not enough. They need private investors to step in, but some are hesitant because of delays and political uncertainty. And then there's competition. Ethiopia and South Sudan, two key partners in this corridor, are exploring other options. Ethiopia, for example, is looking at ports in Djibouti and Somaliland, which could mean less traffic for Lamu. If those countries shift their trade routes, the corridor's viability could take a hit. Local communities have concerns too. Some worry about losing their land or being excluded from the benefits. Others point to environmental issues, like pollution and the disruption of grazing routes. These challenges are real and need to be addressed if the project is to succeed. But here's the thing, progress is happening. It's slower than planned, but it's real. The roads, the ports, the airports, they're all pieces of a bigger picture. If completed, the LAPSSET Corridor could transform East Africa, making trade faster, cheaper, and more efficient. So, what do you think? Is this project worth the challenges? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications.